My God, how can this be happening now? David Wellington's shout just cut straight through the quiet buzz of the 45th floor, making even the walls feel tense. You ever have one of those days where it seems the universe is just out to trip you up, right as you're about to cross the finish line? Well, that's the kind of morning David was having just minutes away from the biggest meeting of his career, staring down a $200 million contract with a team from China, only to find out the official translator had vanished because of a family emergency. No backup, no time, no miracle unless one happened to walk and holding him up. Rebecca, his executive assistant, rattled off excuses, phone glued to her ear, eyes darting with panic. Mr. Wellington, I've called every translator in the city. No one can make it on this short notice. Not for something like this. David, who'd built Wellington Industries from the ground up, suddenly looked every one of his 52 years, yanking off his tie as sweat started to gather on his brow. He'd been told for decades the Chinese were sticklers for protocol, no apps, no makeshift solutions, no improvising your way out of a language gap when this much money was on the line. That's when a soft voice floated across the room, almost shy. "Excuse me, Mr. Wellington, but I speak fluent Mandarin." You could have heard a pin drop. Even Rebecca let out this half-nervous, half-incredulous laugh, like she was sure someone was playing a joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was Jasmine Parker, 28, maintenance uniform, cleaning rag in hand, had been working those executive floors for 3 years, never drawing attention, never in the way, yet somehow always there. Yeah, that happened. David's face did this double take, somewhere between hope and total disbelief. "You speak Mandarin?" he asked, like he was afraid he might have misheard. Jasmine didn't blink. "Mandarin, Cantonese, a little Taiwanese," she said, calm as you please, meeting his gaze. "I majored in Oriental linguistics at Howard before I started here." If anybody was expecting her to look embarrassed, they'd be waiting a long time. Rebecca, ever the gatekeeper, tried to shut it down, telling David it was crazy to put the fate of the company in the hands of a cleaning lady. But desperation makes you see things clear. David saw something in Jasmine's posture, a quiet confidence that said she'd seen plenty worse than a skeptical executive. "Prove it," he said, maybe a bit harsher than he meant. Jasmine took a breath and spoke a string of perfect Mandarin that filled the room with this energy that didn't need translating. David, speechless, asked what she'd said. Jasmine replied, "It's a respectful business greeting. Very standard in Chinese culture." You could practically see the wheels turning in his head. Rebecca tried once more. What will the Chinese think if they realize the translator is a cleaning lady, not even trying to hide the old prejudices? Jasmine, for her part, stayed steady, but a memory flickered through her mind. Rebecca in the executive bathroom months ago, sobbing on the phone, talking about that black girl always hanging around. Jasmine hadn't forgotten. She'd never forget. David, faced with no other choice, and maybe trusting his gut for the first time in years, told Jasmine she had 20 minutes to get ready. "Meet me in the conference room." Rebecca hissed at him, "You're going to ruin everything." But David was out of options. When Jasmine walked into that conference room, navy blue uniform swapped for a sharp black dress borrowed from the front desk receptionist. Hair pulled back, neat, every head turned. Thomas, the CFO, couldn't help but mutter, "Is that really the same person?" Rebecca whispered to her assistant, "You can put a jewel in coal, but it's still coal inside." But Jasmine ignored her. This was her shot. David introduced Jasmine to the delegation as their international relations specialist for the Asian market, every word deliberate. "Mr. Chun," the Chinese leader, gave Jasmine a respectful bow. Jasmine answered back in flawless Mandarin, praising their punctuality, a big deal in Chinese culture. Suddenly, all the doubts in the room seemed to evaporate. For the next 15 minutes, Jasmine translated everything, words, nuance, even the inside jokes that made the Chinese executives laugh. The meeting flowed. Things were actually going well. Then, the twist. Rebecca, unable to let go, interrupted with a syrupy smile, "Perhaps we should tell our guests about Jasmine's unique career path at the company." It was a calculated hit. Rebecca wanted to shame Jasmine, maybe rattle her enough to break her cool. Jasmine, though, met her fire with ice. Life teaches us opportunities come in unexpected ways, she replied, steady as a rock. But you could feel the shift the Chinese exec's glances turning, the air suddenly less easy. Jasmine had spent 3 years scrubbing those conference tables, absorbing every conversation, every strategy, every secret, especially Rebecca's. Like the time Rebecca fudged sales numbers, or took credit for a subordinate's work, or pushed out employees she thought didn't fit the company image. Jasmine had kept it all. In that moment, as the meeting ended in a cloud of uncertainty, Jasmine realized she was no longer just the help. She was the hidden witness. Later, Rebecca gloated to the staff. At least now we know where everyone really belongs. Jasmine was back in her uniform, but not for long. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Chun, in Chinese. Would you meet me tomorrow? I have a proposal. Jasmine's heart pounded. This was bigger than translation. This was her chance. That night, in her Brooklyn apartment, Jasmine opened a file she'd built over 2 years. Emails, call logs, photo 63 pages of evidence documenting every crooked move she'd witnessed at Wellington, most of it tied to Rebecca. She'd been invisible for 3 years, but she'd been watching. The next morning, she met Mr. Chun and his vice president, Lisa Wong, at Cafe Mandarin. They offered Jasmine a job 5 times her salary, running North American operations. The only catch: help them investigate Wellington's shady dealings. They'd already filed a formal complaint. When Jasmine arrived at Wellington the following day for the emergency board meeting, this time in a tailored gray suit, not borrowed, paid for by her advance, she looked every bit the executive. David announced she was there by request of the Chinese delegation. Rebecca tried to shout her down, but Jasmine simply connected her laptop to the projector. Email chains, altered spreadsheets, recorded calls, every ugly truth out in the open. Rebecca tried to claim it was a setup, but Jasmine played a recording, Rebecca's own voice, saying they couldn't have those kinds of people in executive meetings. Another, ordering resumes with ethnic names to be discarded. The room fell silent. Faced with the evidence, David fired Rebecca on the spot and had her escorted out by security. Jasmine, for the first time, stood at the head of the table, not as a cleaning lady, but as Wellington's new director of international relations. The sweetest revenge wasn't destroying Rebecca, it was building something better. 6 months later, Jasmine was sitting in her glass-walled office, now negotiating contracts worth hundreds of millions, her mother finally getting the best medical care, her own degree finished. She created a scholarship at Howard for students who had to drop out for family reasons, knowing exactly what that sacrifice felt like. Rebecca, meanwhile, was living in a cramped apartment in Queens, hit with fines and a ban from executive work, her name now a warning in every business newspaper. One afternoon, as the board celebrated Jasmine's success, Mr. Johnson, the same director who'd seen it all, stood up and said, "She's proven that true talent has no color, no class, and doesn't hide behind privilege." Jasmine, remembering the woman who once cleaned that same boardroom, smiled humbly. When asked by a reporter about Rebecca, Jasmine answered, "She showed me exactly who I didn't want to become. Real power lifts others up." Now, mentoring other overlooked staff, Jasmine had become the leader nobody expected, but everybody respected. You know what's wild? Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody noticed, quietly watching, learning, waiting for the right moment to shine. Rebecca's arrogance wrote her own downfall, but Jasmine proved that dignity, preparation, and resilience always find their way to the top, no matter how many doors someone tries to slam in your face. So, what do you think was justice served? Is it ever really enough to just expose the truth? Or should those who build careers on prejudice face harsher consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about what real leadership looks like and whether anyone can truly leave their past behind.